Hi, this is Aaron of the Country Club, and welcome to part 3 of my tutorial series on making Machinima in Grand Theft Auto 4. In this video, I'm going to show you how to create the video you just saw. So the first thing you're going to need to do is pick out a location. I chose the Poop Deck Seafood Restaurant because it's got a lot of tables and chairs already set up. And since these are dynamic objects, if you walk over, explosions will kind of like knock over the chairs, or and whenever you have an explosion, it's always cooler if you have extra stuff kind of flying around. So the first thing, now that we've selected our location, is to get into character. So I will choose to put, let's put Mario in here, and I think it's MYG Roos High 02, is that right? Yeah, so that's him, and we need to dress him up. So under the model spawning menu, go to the clothing menu and select this. Obviously you won't have this guy, you'll have a different guy. Although at some point, I don't know, at some point maybe I'll make these textures available. It's not a very big deal. So now we got Mario, and now we need something to create an explosion. So I will show you how, well, one way to create explosions. The easiest way I've found is to spawn a car. So go to car spawning and spawn maybe a cavalcade, because those are pretty big, and I think the explosion is based on the size of the car. So that might not be true. That might just be psychological. But anyway, you're going to want to drive your car into the spot where you want your explosion to occur. Get out the way. Put it. Oh, sorry guys. Put it there. Okay, so once you've got your car in place, this is where your explosion is going to come from. But maybe it doesn't always make sense to blow up a car in your scene, but you still want the explosion. So what you can do is under car options, you can select car, player, invisible, visible. And what this does is it toggles either both the car and the player being visible, the player being invisible, the car and player being visible, or the car being invisible and the player being visible. So in this case, we want the car to be invisible, and we want the player to stay visible. So that's where our explosion is. You can see the car is still physically there, it's just invisible. And now you've got your sort of explosion set up right there. And now if you remember from the previous tutorial, under options, you can set you can use this option, which is explode nearest car. And obviously, since there aren't any cars around, besides my invisible one, it's going to blow up that car. So once you kind of know, in this shot, we want Mario to walk down past this table, and the car blows up, and it's great. Oh, also now would be a good time to set God mode, because if you don't, and you blow up the car, it's going to also blow you up, and that will look significantly less badass. So we're going to turn on God mode, and yeah, and let's see, and then turn on God mode, set your option to, explode nearest car, and all that's left is to walk away and detonate it. It's also a good practice to kind of rehearse what you're going to do, because if you, say, screw up this shot, you've got to come back and reset the car again and redress Mario. Well, you don't need to redress Mario, but you come back and reset the car. And in some of the bigger scenes where you've got PEDs and things, it can be really tedious to have to reset a lot of these elements. So, and if you're like me, you don't like tedium. All right, here we go, and action. Boom. Keeps walking because he's badass. Stepped over that guy, and that's a cut. So now that you've got your sequence, hit F2 to save your clip, Alternatively, you can press the back button if you're using a Xbox controller on your PC. And now, all that's left is to go to the video editor. So, to get to the video editor, you want to pull out your phone by hitting either the D-pad up or up on your arrow keys. Select Menu, which would be the A button, and go in your phone book and select Video Editor. And this is, are you sure? Yes, we are sure. Okay, so now we're in the video editor portion of GTA 4. And I really like this part of GTA. I really have to hand it to the developers. This was a great idea. We can move into the editor, and we'll create a new clip. We'll call this Where My Explosion Is. And we'll take this clip, which is what we just shot, and drag it into the timeline. Or I guess they call this the storyboard. So here in the storyboard, this shows you your clip. And we've got a few things here. We've got an audio timeline. I guess you can add music. We didn't really do too much of that. We added our music in post. I guess you could put text on top of your video too. That's kind of neat. But we didn't do any of that business. What we generally did was drag our clip here. And you would take your action here, your performance, and then that would take however much time to load up. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, once you have your clip loaded, you're given this timeline, which you have these white markers here, which signify the beginning and the end of your clip. So any of you out there who use Final Cut or Premiere or any sort of video editing software, you'll be familiar with that sort of thing where you can set the in and out points of your clip. Which is really important because you probably don't want to render all of this nonsense just to get to this point. So let's shorten this. So that's probably enough head right there. So, all right. And then down here you've got different buttons. This rewinds to the beginning of the clip. This will play the clip backwards. This will play the clip forwards at normal speed. This will play the clip faster and faster. You click it a few times. And this, backwards. And then this is the most important button here. What this does is this will create a marker. Markers are a lot like keyframes in After Effects or any other sort of animation or video editing program. They allow you to set the camera to a certain state at that point in time. Markers also control things like filter. We didn't use a lot of filters, but here they are. None, classic, tweaked, cinema. I guess it looks like Amelie. Vert, hot, steel, psych. We didn't use any of these for the Brothers Mario. Although, what is it? This, wow, that's a lot. Fire, sketch. Wow, that's pretty intense. But we're going to stick to none. And those are filters. You could use them if you want. Another valuable thing is you can set the speed. So let's see, 100% is normal, 45%, so you know this is like slow motion. This is about half, a little less than half speed. If you want to get really slow, you can go down to, I think, 5%, where, you know, this is like matrix speed. Audio, we didn't use a lot, but I guess you can adjust the volume and of the sound effects and the music and turn the speech off. I guess if that's if you're not going to bring it into any other software after this. We didn't use that too much. What we did use for everything was the camera. Camera markers are really helpful. There's several different types of cameras. Preset cameras are the sort of basic cameras that come with the game. So there's the game view. There's a sort of what is this? A front view, where the camera will kind of move with the character. That's actually kind of cool. Rear view, what is this guy's butt? And the side view, that's kind of neat. Overhead is kind of neat. Chest, so I guess that's kind of a medium shot. And then handheld, which is like, you know, kind of shaky. If if you want to give it a little bit of that, I don't know, documentary feel, or that movie with the aliens in South Africa. Hey, what was the movie with the aliens in South Africa?
District 9.
Oh yeah, you know, you could make it handheld if you want to be a little bit like District 9 or something. And we didn't use a whole lot of the built-in cameras. They're pretty cool, but we tended to use custom cameras, and custom cameras come in two flavors. One is targeted, so as you can see, also I'm holding down the right mouse button to move the camera. That'll adjust the tilt and the pan of the camera, and when it's targeted, it also adjusts the orbit. You can target different things. It's targeting the player, ped 0, ped 1. It's like the Village people. No Indian. Okay. Well, anyway, so that's kind of useful if you want to do, I don't know, sort of a snorri cam or something and lock the camera to a character. Or when you're driving, it's pretty helpful. It'll help you track cars. But for the most part, we used custom free cameras. And these are the most versatile cameras. They're not attached to anything. You can use the mouse to hold the right mouse button, and you can move the mouse around to adjust your, probably making you sick, adjust your tilt and pan. WSAND adjust your forward, back, and then your kind of strafing left and right. Q and E will roll your camera to give you kind of a Dutch angle. And then if you're impatient, you can hold left shift while you move, and it will make your camera move faster. But the nice thing is you can kind of, you can place your camera exactly the way you want it. That's not a great angle. The other nice thing about the camera system in GTA 4 is that you can adjust your field of view and decrease your field of view, and this will simulate the look of putting a longer lens on your camera. So you can see it's kind of compressing the space. And then if you increase your field of view, essentially what this does is it simulates wider and wider lenses for your camera until, you get the distortion level of like a fisheye lens here. So if you wanted to make a skate video or something in GTA, you could do that. I'm probably going to set mine to a slightly longer lens. Maybe we'll set our view to about 25, maybe 20. That will kind of compress the space and make the explosion seem a little bit closer to Mario. So once you've done that, you've kind of set your camera where you want it. You can set your movement, and this has three options. There's linear, blend, and none. And basically what it does is this setting tells the camera what to do in between markers or keyframes. So if you set it to linear, what it'll do is it'll move between it and the next marker. So if you set a marker here and then you move the camera somewhere else, and your marker is set to linear, it will basically move through whatever space it needs to go to get to that next marker. So in this case, I'm going to set it to linear. It's probably a lot easier if I just show you. Set this marker to linear, and then we're going to go further in time. And so let's see, when the explosion happens there, let's just say I want to be somewhere else. So I will create a new marker, and I'll back up my camera. Let's see, maybe where do we want to be? Do we want to be, let's see, we want to be here. Oh, another helpful tip. When you're adjusting the camera, if you have a mouse with a wheel and you roll the wheel, it will ped your camera up and down. So let's see, so that might be kind of cool. Let's see, something like that. He's an upside down guy. So let's see, something like that. Yeah, okay. So now what will happen, because we set this first keyframe to linear, it will interpolate the movement between those two camera positions, which is how you get your camera move. So here we're kind of simulating a truck back. We're dollying backwards. Okay, So that's kind of cool. All right, and you stepped on that guy. That wasn't very polite, but it was pretty badass. Okay, so let's take a look at that. All right, so boom. Okay, so let's see. So how can we make this better? Well, for some of you, that might be exactly what you want. But for me, I'm gonna add a little bit of slow motion because slow motion always makes things better. Let's see, there we go. Okay, so the explosion happens here. Let's see, around what time? Boom. Okay, so the explosion happens around 0761. So let's move this keyframe back here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to slow things down. So what's going to happen now is we're going to go from being 100% speed at this keyframe. Oh, by the way, these will jump to the next, or the previous and the next keyframe. So there and there, which is super convenient. So at this keyframe, you can see that the speed percent is 15%, and this keyframe here is 100%. So what this is going to simulate is kind of a speed ramp. So we're moving at normal speed, and everybody's la la la, normal speed. And then it's going to slow down, and then we're going to have this explosion in slow motion. And it looks like that explosion, the speed ramp happens a little bit late, or a little bit early. So let's find the frame where, let's let the explosion start a little bit more. Boom. Okay, so there. All right, so let's move that keyframe over just a tad. Let's review that. So there he goes, normal speed walk. Kaboom, in slow motion. And then maybe here, we want to kind of let it go back to normal speed. So let's throw down another keyframe and we'll crank our speed back up to 100. We come here, we're dollying backwards. We speed ramp, kaboom. Mario's walking away, the guy goes flying, and then it goes back to normal speed. So how can we improve this? Well, there's one thing that you might be thinking. This beginning right here is a little bit clunky. So if you watch when the camera gets started, it feels a little bit artificial and a little bit CG. And that's because the camera starts moving at speed. So there's no, in real life, if you start pushing a dolly, it starts off slow and then has to kind of ramp up to speed, because that's just, you know, how it works in real life. In computers, you don't need to do any of that. But at Rockstar, they knew that that would make things look unrealistic, so they added this feature called ease. So it's under movement, and what ease does is it kind of eases you into a keyframe or out of a keyframe. So in this case, we want to ease out. So what that means is it won't just start moving right there. It'll accelerate until it gets to, you know, the speed we're looking for. So I'll show you again without, this is without ease, so it just kind of moves. And now I'll show you, oops. I'll show you with ease, easing out. So you see there's a little bit, it's not great, but there's a little bit of like, it slows down and then it comes into it. And that will make things feel a little bit more natural. And you can do the same coming into this keyframe. Because we're speed ramping into it, it's not as noticeable that there's like a hard stop, because it also slows down abruptly. But it's probably a pretty good idea to put an ease in. And what that'll do is it won't just stop abruptly. It will give you a little bit of deceleration coming into that final position. So we'll take a look at that again. So here we go. So now it's easing in, and it's kind of slowing down and stopping. So it's a little bit more natural there as it's kind of coming into its mark. So there you go. That's how you shoot Mario walking away from an explosion. So now what's left? Okay, so let's save this clip. That shot is roughly what we like. We'll save the clip, exit back out to the editor, just for safe measure, save your edit or whatever they call this. And now down here where it says export to gallery, there's three options. There's web, 720 and 1080. We did Brothers Mario at 720. My video card actually isn't good enough to go to 1080. But for the purpose of this demo, I'm just doing everything low res so it doesn't chunk. And I can only render it out to web resolution. But I'm going to go ahead and do that to give you an idea. So when you select web, if you have a better video card, of course, you can select 720. And then it's going to load up the sequence, and it will sit here and and obviously you get your progress bar at the top. Because I'm running Fraps, it's also eating my resources. Also, one thing to take into account, you can see there is where my Splosions is, and I guess that's my social club name, and then Rockstar's watermark. There's hacks to get rid of all that stuff, but what we ended up doing was just kind of framing all of our shots so that we could crop those watermarks out of the frame. And that's why you'll notice the aspect ratio for Brothers Mario is, I don't know if that's 235 or what we ended up using, but part of the reasoning for it was that we wanted to crop out that stuff because, I don't know, I mean, I've got nothing against their logo, but it kind of detracts from the animation. So this is almost done rendering. Wow, he steps on that guy. That's hella tough. And